Almost along the entire front line, we see the systematic advance of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. These were the words of the head of the Donetsk People's Republic, Denis Pushilin, who said so on the air of the TV channel Russia 24. The Russian military is expanding the control zone and destroying the fortified districts of the armed forces of Ukraine in the Kursk direction, as well as in the area of Velika Novoselka. At the same time, the Ukrainian enemy unsuccessfully tried to counterattack near Pokrovsk, he said. In Chasiv Yar, there are also some kind of successes that allow, especially in connection with the liberation of Toretsk, now called Zelensky, to build further prospects in the direction of Konstantinivka, Pushilin said. As the head of the region noted, now the attention is focused on pushing the front line even further and starting demining the liberated cities, as well as evacuating the civilian population. On Sunday, Pushilin reported that the Russian armed forces were gradually cutting off all the enemy's logistics on the highway connecting Dmitrov, Konstantinovka, and Chasiv Yar. The editor-in-chief of Frontline in Donbass, Andrei Kravchenkov, agreed with the report of Mr. Pushilin when interviewed by Ukrainian media. He reports that the occupying Russian forces, as he calls them, are advancing toward Konstantinivka, increasing the range of weapons that can target the city. In quotations, there are 3 active areas around Konstantinivka. The city serves as a near-rear for the group defending Chasiv Yar on one side and Kurdimovka and Toretsk on the other. If you look at the map, Konstantinivka is surrounded by an arc. In the north, it connects to Chasiv Yar. At the top of the arc is Kurdimovka, and in the south, it reaches the almost completely destroyed Toretsk, Kravchenkov explained. According to the editor-in-chief of Frontline, the strikes on Konstantinivka can be seen as an attack on the rear of the group defending the 3 directions. At the same time, these 3 areas serve as the flanks of Konstantinivka's defense. I previously linked the increase in attacks to the Russians advancing to higher ground, but the military dismisses this and attributes it to proximity. As Russian forces move closer to Konstantinivka, a wider range of weapons can be used against the city, Kravchenkov emphasized. So today I will cover the Pokrovsk and Kursk fronts based on Russian and Ukrainian media sources to give you an update of what's occurring on that front as of today. I will lastly touch briefly on Zelensky's decision to lower the mobilization age to 18 and reveal what the Russian officials think of that move. Now the good news for the channel is that the last 2 videos have performed well and we are quickly approaching 1,000 subscribers in less than a week. So I thank you for that. Of course, it will take some more time to hit the 4,000 watch hour mark. So to assist with that, please share the video and try to watch the entirety of it so we can get monetized in under 6 months. And of course, for those of you who haven't already, make sure to hit the notification bell and the subscribe button. And with that, let's get into it. The recent large-scale attacks by the Ukrainian army led to another defeat in the Russian Kursk region. Having lost hundreds of soldiers and dozens of military vehicles, including precious tanks from NATO, Ukrainian forces did not expand their zone of control southeast of Sudzha and failed to gain new footholds. The Russian troops continue the mop-up operations and counterattack, repelling the remaining Ukrainian soldiers from the forest areas near Cherkasskaya, Konopelka, and Panasivka. Ukrainians have been trying to evacuate the wounded from the area for several days now. According to the latest reports from the front, the Russian military secured its control of Panasivka and completed the mop-up operations in the forest south of the village. East of Cherkasskaya, Konopelka, Russian troops are advancing near the local dam. The standoff persists in all directions in the Kursk region. The Russian army increases pressure on the western flank of the Ukrainian grouping in Sudzha. According to the latest reports from the battlefield, they secured their foothold in the western part of the village of Berdlikovo. Ukrainian forces are hiding behind a local river in the eastern part of the village. Berdlikovo is a key stronghold of the Ukrainian army, control of which would pave the way for further Russian offensives on Sudzha from the west. According to estimates by the Russian Defense Ministry, the armed forces of Ukraine have already lost about 60,000 people in the battles in the Kursk region. Heavy Ukrainian losses are confirmed by footage in the region. Despite the ongoing defeats, both in the Kursk region and in the Donbass, the Ukrainian military command continues sending reinforcements to Russian territory. Over 320 additional fighters from Ukrainian airborne assault units with war armored vehicles were reportedly deployed to the border region of the Russian Federation in recent days. The numerous reserves thrown into Kursk battles have not changed the front line so far, but the head of the Kiev regime, Zelensky, is still betting on the bloody attacks on Russian soil, hoping for some political benefits. In his recent interview, Zelensky called the Kursk operations of the Ukrainian army very beautiful. In February of 2024, the Russian army took control of a large number of cities and towns on the Donbass front lines. They include Avdiivka, Ugleda, Selidove, Kurakove, Velika Novoselka, not to mention dozens of smaller villages. The last large Russian victory is the liberation of Toretsk. In its turn, the Kiev regime keeps losing its military units with NATO tanks in its beautiful operations, proud of its control of a small town named Sudzha on Russian territory. Russian military correspondent Yevgeny Podobny warned in Russian media Lenta that what is happening in the Kursk region should terrify Ukrainian society. He pointed out that since the invasion of the armed forces of Ukraine on the Russian territory, the Ukrainian side has already lost about 60,000 people only, according to official data. The military correspondent stressed that the losses of the armed forces of Ukraine are not of interest to Kiev's Western partners, as they care about material damage, translating the number of destroyed military equipment into a monetary equivalent. In this regard, he addressed his message to the society of Ukraine because, Podobny pointed out, Russian fighters are not going to stop. Despite the fact that the armed forces of Ukraine are attempting a counterattack in the Kursk region, the soldiers of the Russian army successfully repelled them. Just the day before, servicemen of the Russian army repelled 3 counterattacks, striking 12 Ukrainian brigades in 16 settlements of the Kursk region. In addition to manpower, the armed forces of Ukraine also lost their equipment. In quotations, in total, during the hostilities in the Kursk region, the enemy lost 355 tanks, 259 infantry fighting vehicles, 204 armored personnel carriers, the Russian Ministry of Defense said. The next day, the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation shared a video showing 11 attacks carried out by the calculations of FPV paratroopers of the 11th Airborne Brigade in the Kursk region. As the commander of the Special Forces Akhmat, Lieutenant General Apti Aludanov, emphasized, most of the soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine who entered Russia on August 6 have been destroyed at the moment. He specified that those formations that are still near Kursk consist mainly of mobilized ones. The law enforcement agencies said that now the armed forces of Ukraine have transferred more than 300 servicemen from the territory of Sumy and Chernihiv to Sudzha near Kursk. Before that, part of the Ukrainian forces from the districts of Pokrovsk, Slavyansk, and others were also redirected to the Kursk region. According to the military expert, retired Colonel Anatoly Matvichuk, even despite the active reduction of forces, the armed forces of Ukraine will still not be able to organize another offensive in this section of the front. Matvichuk, Russian military expert, gave this final quote: "With the loss of Kursk, President of Ukraine Vladimir Zelensky will become uninteresting for the Western world. So despite huge losses, the fact that there is a breakthrough in defense on other fronts, he produces what he deems necessary, tries to show the intensification of actions in the Kursk direction, although this leads to unjustified losses." Now on the next major front, further south,
Into his home to show us how he survived.
Viktor Vorolatsky told RIA Novosti that Russian troops have taken Pokrovsk in the DPR and cut off transport communications of the armed forces of Ukraine. In quotations, "We have already taken Pokrovsk into the pliers or the pincers. We are cutting off transport communications for the supply of weapons, food, fuel, and lubricants to the units that are located in Pokrovsk," he said. At the same time, according to him, in order to save the soldiers, the Russian military do not go to the front, but use special tactics. In quotations again, "We bypass Pokrovsk from two sides, so that then these pincers are locked in a ring and a cauldron is formed there, and later it will be released," the deputy specified. Pokrovsk is a district center in the northwest of the DPR. According to data for 2022, the population of the city exceeded 61,000 people. There is a large railway junction in the city. Railways and roads connecting Donetsk with the Dnipro region of Ukraine pass through it. Now just today, reports of a Russian breakthrough near the Pokrovsk city were reported both in Russian and even admitted in Ukrainian media. Russian media Lenta, citing the press service of the command of the Ukrainian Operational and Strategic Group of Troops, Kortizha, stated that as a result of offensive operations, the Russians were able to advance near Pokrovsk. In quotations, "As a result of assault actions and fire, some of our positions were destroyed. Measures are being taken to prevent the deterioration of the tactical situation," the publication says. It was noted that Russian troops were advancing in the area of more than a dozen villages, including Dachny, Ospenivka, Udachny, Vodian, and other settlements. Earlier, it became known that the Ukrainian military mined the infrastructure of the mining and processing factory of the Pokrovsk mining department. According to the law enforcement agencies, we are talking about an enterprise in the village of Udachny. And this Russian breakthrough was confirmed in RBC, Ukraine. According to the military, in the Pokrovsk direction, the Russians tried to realize their numerical advantage and break through the defense in the areas of settlements Baranivka, Vodian, Prumin, Lysivka, Dachensky, Udachny, Ospenivka, Ladivka, Andriivka, and Dachny. This is reported by RBC Ukraine with reference to the Kortizha OSUV. Now, no doubt, as a result of these consistent defeats and catastrophic losses in the Ukrainian army, Zelensky now plans to lower the mobilization age to 18 years old in Ukraine.
Для молодих людей 18-24, віком 18-24, хто з них захоче? Це не мобілізація.
The chairman of the Duma Defense Committee, Colonel General Andrei Kartapolov, commented that this will not change the course of the special military operation. On February 8th, President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky announced the development of plans for the recruitment of citizens aged 18 to 24 in the armed forces of Ukraine. They are offered to conclude contracts that entitle them to a number of benefits. The Ukrainian authorities are following in the footsteps of Adolf Hitler, Kartapolov said about the initiative. He reminded that this is how Hitler, who armed Hitler Youth, also acted in this way during the Great Patriotic War. It will not have any consequences for Russian troops, the general is assured. In quotations, "Our troops will continue to perform the task set by the Supreme Commander-in-Chief," Kartapolov concluded. Earlier, Vladimir Rogov, chairman of the Commission on Sovereignty of the Public Chamber of Russia, called Zelensky's idea a mousetrap for young Ukrainians. In quotations, "In fact, this is a one-way road, since young people simply have no chance to survive at the front," he stressed.